Hey, what's up? I'm Seth, and today I'm going to answer the question, would I take my kids to see the new Marvel movie, Eternals? First off, this is a spoiler-free review. I will not spoil anything or give away anything that wasn't in the trailer. If you haven't seen the trailers, sorry, this might be a little bit of a spoiler for you. But otherwise, if you've seen the trailers but not the movie, this won't spoil anything. But I wanted to tell you what I think and if I would share it with my kids. So first off, I'm a huge fan of Marvel movies. I think they do a great job marrying, the comics and the excitement and the action with humor, with a grounded story, with good characters. I just felt like they've done a great job with that. And so with this movie, I held expectations like I've held with the other Marvel movies. That would be a great movie. And overall, if I'm answering the question right off the bat, would I share this movie with my kids? My answer is no. I would not share this movie with my kids. Not at this point, not in the theater at all, And you're thinking, well, maybe Disney Plus later. Maybe, but, let me tell you why. I want you to be able to make an informed decision. So I'm going to talk about the 3 things I liked most about this movie for my kids, and then the 3 things I didn't like the most about this movie, and then kind of why. Again, spoiler free. Here we go. So here are the 3 things I liked most about this movie. Number 1, I loved the diversity. I thought the diversity was so cool. You have some very diverse superheroes. They all had some really cool superpowers. They were different. They were unique. It was fun. They were of different nationalities. You could tell that. Even though the Eternals themselves are supposed to be not from this planet. Again, that was in the trailer, so that's okay. But they had some, different skin tones, different accents, a lot of different things that you don't usually see in a Marvel movie, unfortunately, right? A lot of our Marvel movies to this point, some of them have been kind of diverse, but I feel like this one takes it to the next level, and it's really cool. We also have a superhero who's deaf. Again, that was also in the trailer, but that's really cool. That's never happened yet. We also have a superhero who's a homosexual. That hasn't been in any Marvel movies yet. So, again, a lot of diversity in this movie. The next thing I liked a lot, which kind of goes along with the diversity, is there were strong women. I know I say this because I have daughters, and I'm really excited about that. And honestly, we're getting to the point where this is more of a norm than it's ever been. So maybe I won't talk about it anymore. But the women in this movie were really strong. One of them is Angelina Jolie's character, and she's super tough. She's an amazing warrior. There's a couple other women characters that pretty much are the leaders of this group, which is great. And then the third thing, the last thing I liked most about this movie for my kids is that it's a unique story. It's a different style of Marvel movie. It doesn't feel the same as the other ones. And I've liked that about Marvel movies in general, is that they don't always have to fit a norm. Some of them do. Some of them say, the Marvel formula for like the origin stories of different superheroes, but some of them don't. Some of them are like space epics or political thrillers and different things like that. This one felt like a fantasy epic, and just the style and look and feel of it was different, and it was unique, and it was a story that I'd never even heard about before. So that was pretty cool. Okay, with that said, those are the things I liked and I'd like my kids to see, but what did I not like, and why overall, would I probably not show this to my kids? Okay, the number one thing I didn't like about this movie, number 1, is that it just wasn't as fun. It wasn't as fun. A lot of the Marvel movies for me have still been pretty fun, even though I haven't been familiar with the characters. Like, the flow, the dialogue, the acting, everything has kind of kept me engaged. This one, for some reason, did not as much. It was kind of boring. It felt long. And I've never had that with a Marvel movie before. It just felt too long to me. At the end of it, I was just like kind of getting a little bored, and my wife was falling asleep. It wasn't fun for me. And I know, again, if it's not fun for me as an adult, a movie lover, somebody who's actually a little bit involved with the comic books, I don't think my kids would like that at all. So, number 1. Again, that's just my preference. If you already know the characters, maybe you'd have a lot more fun with it. For me, I didn't have a tons of fun with this movie. Okay, the second thing I didn't like about this movie for my kids is that it was more violent. Now, the violence is between these aliens. Again, in the trailers, it talks about how the Eternals are fighting these deviants and how that's the reason that they're on Earth. They've always been here, but they're protecting all the people of Earth from these deviants, and that's all they do. They don't get themselves involved in wars or fighting Thanos, things like that, but they do fight the deviants, which are, all over the Earth, and they protect us against them, and we had no idea. So, again, that's in the trailers. That's not a spoiler. And that's what they are doing. They're fighting these deviants. But those fights can get pretty violent. The Eternals themselves, they bleed. They're chopping these deviants to pieces, things like that. So, it's, alien CG action fighting. So, I don't know. It's not like super gory. It's not something you see in a rated R movie at all. Even like Lord of the Rings, I feel like is a lot more violent. But there was a good amount of violence in this. And then, in that same vein of kind of some content things I didn't like, there is a little bit of sexuality in this movie. There's one sex scene in particular that we just haven't seen in a Marvel movie up to this point. I mean, there was one little romp in the hay that Tony Stark had in the very first Iron Man movie, but they haven't really touched it since then. In this movie, there is a sex scene where you don't see any nudity. It's not super gratuitous, but it's there. You can see that the people's backs, and they're having a sexual moment. Again, so just be aware that that's there. That's in this movie. All right, and the last thing I didn't like about this movie is the characters just did not feel super relatable. I talked about how the first thing I didn't like was that it was kind of boring. This probably falls in that same category. Just by the end, I just did not feel connected. In fact, I felt less connected to the characters by the end of the movie than I did at the beginning. And if that happened to me as an adult who really looks for, those underlying themes and different opportunities to connect to characters, I know my kids probably wouldn't connect very well at all. That's kind of where we ended up there. All right, so that's my overall likes and dislikes of this movie, what I would like for my kids, what I wouldn't like for my kids. Again, my review in general is that this is probably my least favorite Marvel movie to date. That's an unfortunate thing, but it's not an awful movie, but it wasn't great, and it was varying in the realms of good. Like, the CG is really good. You can tell they put a lot of money into it. These actors do a good job with their characters, but again, I just didn't feel connected to those characters. Felt like some things were forced, and anyways, it wasn't my favorite Marvel movie. Maybe you have a different opinion. If you do, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what you thought about this movie, if you would share it with your kids or not. For me, I don't think I would. I don't think I'd spend the money to go see it in the theater. I don't know if I would show it to them on Disney+. I don't feel like it's necessary at this point. Maybe some other movies will come up that'll make it more relevant, but right now, I don't know if I think it is. However, if you do take your kids to this movie, here's some questions that you could ask after this movie, just to make it a little more relevant, to help them think more about it. First of all, I would ask them if they were like the Eternals and could live forever. That's kind of their thing, is they never age. What they would do with their time. It's an interesting concept. I would ask my kids, what would you do with your time if you just lived forever? The second thing I'd ask them, just for fun, is, who is your favorite Eternal and why? Who would you want to be? They're very diverse. They have different power sets, every single one of them. There's kind of some camps here of, like, powerful warriors, thinkers, creators. It's really cool to see these different types of superheroes. And I would ask my kids, who do you like the most and why? And who would you want to be? Okay, so the last question I would ask, and this is more of a thinker for my kids, is if you had this great power, but you were told you could only use it in certain times, in certain places, for certain things, just like the Eternals, what would you think about that? How would you feel about that? Would that be okay? I mean, that does kind of come up in the movies. The question is asked, and I would love to ask my kids how they would feel about that as well. All right, so this is my review for Eternals. Overall, let me know if you're going to take your kids to it. If you've seen it, if you liked it, let me know in the comments below. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.